Hi, I'm Cheryl Jackson. Family Literacy Day is on January 27th, and this year the focus is on the everyday things families can do to encourage literacy. It doesn't always have to be a sit down with a book, as nice as that is. There are learning moments in the day-to-day tasks we already do. Here to tell us what those might be is Margaret Eaton. She's the president of ABC Life Literacy Canada. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in. Now, why did your organization choose this as a theme, sort of the everyday tasks that we do that can encourage literacy?
Well, we recently did a study with Ipsos Reid, and we found out that not a lot of parents were doing these activities, only about 30%. And one of the big reasons that they gave for why they weren't doing more learning activities at home with their kids was that they had not enough time. And so what we really wanted to do was shine a light on the fact that there are these everyday activities that you can do where there are learning moments built in. So just find the teachable moments in those everyday activities, and you've created your own literacy learning exercise.
Okay, so give me some examples of what you mean.
So one of the most obvious ones that we really like to encourage is cooking and baking with your children. So this is a great one because it can involve reading skills. If they're reading out the instructions on a package, how to make the product, or if they're reading out a recipe, that's their reading skills. Measuring is really important. Kids at around the grade 4 to 6 area are working on fractions. So measuring out things helps with that understanding of fractions and numbers. Counting out teaspoons of things is numeracy. So that's a great one for engaging kids in learning.
Okay, so obviously literacy to you is not just reading books or words and letters, it's numbers, it's understanding printed material.
That's
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things. The idea is that literacy is really reading, writing, and math. It's comprehension of the world around you. And do you have the skills that you need to do the activities that you want to engage in as a child, as a parent?
Okay, what are some other things though? I know cooking is one that I think a lot of, probably if they cook.
Yeah, that's right.
If they have time to cook, they
Right.
probably do some of that with their kids. What are some other things that parents might not have thought of?
Right. Well, one of the things that we've encouraged around is things like grocery shopping, where the kids write out the list. So dictate the list to them. And then when you're at the grocery store, have them help by finding the items, which means they have to identify, they read their list back, they have to look for the items, find them, recognize the words on the shelf. So that's a fun one. The other thing is traveling. We spend a lot of time in the car. And this is something that I used to do with my parents, was looking for looking for the letters of the alphabet while you're driving, whether it's on license plates, if it's on signage going by or trucks going by. So you're identifying letters. It's just a really simple kind of literacy exercise that practices recognition of letters, and in different type sizes and type fonts, which is another skill of literacy.
I guess there's a lot to talk about, huh? Now, how can parents do this though without their kids, sort of rolling their eyes and saying, okay, they're trying to teach me something.
They're trying to teach me something. I know. I guess that's the thing, is to try to make it fun and make it a game. My mother used to say to me, oh, see if you can find the fish bone. We'll count the fish bones. Because she didn't want us eating fish bones. So make a game of it. Make it fun. Because that is actually one of the things that we try to get across with Family Literacy Day, is that, we're not expecting everybody to crack open a textbook. The idea is to look for fun, teachable moments and fun things that you can do with your kids that are learning.
Some of it seems a bit natural. Do you not think that some parents do this anyway?
I think they do, and that's what we found.
Maybe they just don't know.
And they don't recognize it. Yeah, I'm actually turning this into a learning moment. And I guess what we'd like to do is just have more parents think about what's the creative thing that we could do in this moment together.
Okay, and why don't more parents do it then? You said 30%
say 30%
they do that?
say that they do that. Well, I did worry that maybe people thought the question meant that cracking open a textbook, and that isn't really what it's about. It's really about creating a culture of learning within your home, because we know that the literacy level of a child is predicted by the literacy level of the parents. And so if the parents are modeling learning, if the parents are reading and asking questions of their children, even just engaging in conversation is a literacy exercise. It builds the child's vocabulary. Telling stories together is another really simple one. Just telling a story and having the child become engaged in that storytelling is another really simple little literacy activity that you can all do together.
Okay, now I still think of literacy with your family though as sitting down with a book.
Yeah.
And you know, that sort of reading before bedtime with your child, is that still
Yes, you know, that is still,
is it most important?
I think
or-
that is
yeah.
really crucial, that there be that joint reading time. And it really is so important because it models the importance of reading, and it teaches the technology of the book, even just understanding how books open, that we turn from left to right in our culture, identifying the connection between pictures with a storybook and the words, asking questions about what you're reading. Those activities are really important, but it's also teaching the love of reading, which is so key.
I guess so. Now, so many parents stop reading to their kids when the kids
Right.
learn to read themselves. And I know I fell into that, especially because, you know, I have 3 children. So once the eldest got old enough to read to himself, he was reading to himself so I could read with the younger children. You know, I'm not
Right.
sure that was the right thing to do, but why do parents do that? As soon as the child learns to read, you're on your own.
That's exactly what happens. And I think it's part of that being busy thing as well,
Sure.
and having other kids that you have to attend to. But there's a great new book out by Paul Kropp called How to Raise a Reader for Life. And what he talks about is the value of continuing to read aloud. And his point is that we've come from a read aloud culture. Most reading for the last 2,000 years, while there were books, was really about people reading aloud. It's only the last 100 years that we've read silently to ourselves. And so the idea of reading as entertainment, as storytelling, is part of our culture, really. And children benefit so much. Young kids might only be able to read 100 words, but they can comprehend thousands of words. So by continuing to read, they're developing more vocabulary, they're increasing their comprehension of stories, and they're getting a more sophisticated appreciation of reading because they're listening to something that is at a higher level than what they can read themselves. And that's really important.
I guess I hadn't thought about that. And I'm sure there are some kids then who struggle a bit with reading, who wouldn't get that opportunity unless somebody read to them. Is that right?
So true. Yeah, my son is dyslexic. And so he had a big vocabulary, though, loved to have stories read to him. And so we made sure that the read aloud part of reading keeps on going. He's 12, and we still read aloud to him. And we try to incorporate that every day. So we get a daily newspaper, and we read the comics every morning. So that's been a great way to keep him engaged in printed material, in addition to the video material that I know he's enjoying. But yeah, I think it really is important to keep engaging children in the stories and pleasure of reading. And if you keep reading to them, then that shows that you value the pleasure of reading as well.
And I guess the goal is that he will stay interested and become a reader.
He stays interested, exactly, and becomes a reader. And you know, one of the things that we see in adult literacy, where we really measure the comprehension levels in reading, I think a lot of people have an idea that reading is a bit of an on-off switch, whether read or can't read.
Right.
And what we see is there's really a continuum of reading skills, all the way up to, you know, like people that are like mortgage brokers who we pay to read documents for us because we can't read at that level of comprehension, all the way down to people who can't read very much at all. And what we want is for kids to experience as much of their skills along this continuum as they can get. So the more that they're listening to words and language, the more they can build their comprehension for reading future texts themselves. We want kids that can read at a very high level. If they're going to enter into college or university, have careers, the highest level of our reading skills is the reading skill we use at work.
Yeah.
So you want to have kids that are prepared and able to do that. So the more we can read with them, the better prepared they are.
Okay, that's good advice. Now, in your literature that you have online, you also talk
Yeah.
about writing stories with your kids.
Yes,
how
yeah.
many families sit down and write a
You
story?
know, not a lot. I think it was only about 20% of parents did that on a regular basis,
Really?
but occasionally, many parents did on an occasional basis. But that's a great way to really explore the writing part. And the writing is harder in some ways. Teachers will tell you, most kids will learn how to read. Writing is a whole other skill. And it isn't just the creative skill, but even just knowing, you know, where does the period come in the sentence? When do I capitalize? All of those kinds of skills that if you're working with a parent, then they can coach you around some of those writing skills.
How might a family do that? I mean, other than helping their child with homework where they have to
Right.
write a story for school, but if it's not that,
Right.
what might a family do to get that going?
Right, right. Well, one of the things that we've done in our house is word at a time story, which is an improvisation game. Where I say a word, you say a word, Dad says a word, and we tell a story that way. And then that can become an inspiration for writing that story down. You know, what was that funny story that we just told? And it doesn't have to be a long story. It could
Right.
even just be writing a paragraph. One of the things teachers will point out is most writing in school is about a paragraph long. You know, it's the short answer.
Sure.
So don't try to write a huge long story. Write a little paragraph of something. Be inspired by the world around you, something that you read, something you heard, your word at a time story.
Right.
And then just take a moment to write it down together.
Oh, that's kind of fun. Jackson. Now, we've been talking about the benefits to the kids.
Right.
What are the benefits to the adults if they do these things with their kids?
Right. Well, you know, that's the lovely thing about family literacy. It is a practice that describes both both parties coming together and both enjoying and learning. And one of the things we see, especially with adults who struggle with reading and writing themselves, because there are many Canadian parents who struggle, is that having to do these things with their child inspires them to improve their own skills. So having your child come home and wanting to read something with you, having to work on their homework is often a trigger for parents to say, boy, I don't think I have the skills I need. I need to go to a program and improve my own literacy skills. So we look to Family Literacy Day as the opportunity to really talk about the importance of doing this. And if you don't have the skills, then there are lots of places you can go out and get them.
Well, let's talk about the day. It's coming up soon. It's January 27th. What do you have planned?
Yes,
What's
well,
going
there
on
are
that day?
events across the country. So if you go to our website, which is familyliteracyday.ca, you can click on your province, you can look at Ontario, and click on your community and find out about events that are happening on the day or during the week. And it's usually events at libraries, malls, community centers, boys and girls clubs, schools. Lots of people are having events.
Okay. And you have a passport on your site.
Yes, we have the Learning Journey Passport. So you can download the passport with your family, and it has lots of these everyday activities, more descriptions of how you can participate with your child on Family Literacy
Thank you
Day.
for all of this, Margaret.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl.
And good luck on the day.
Thank you.
My guest has been Margaret Eaton.